Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee Books and Rain. I'm Rachel here on this really lovely Sunday where we got a little bit of sunshine, a little bit of rain. We do have plenty of coffee in stock and we have books and book reviews galore. But I'm only going to do a few today because I do have one more that I need to read for this week, and then I can move into next week. I try to read them like that, like which ones are due next, and then kind of, I don't want to say batch read them, but then be like, okay, these are the ones I need to read this week. And then I figure out page counts for each of them or duration for timeline and kind of plan it out. And so that's kind of how I do it. So I think for the 19th, this may be the last. No, I got one more. The one more that I need to finish, but it's only like 200 pages, so I can probably knock that out tomorrow. But let's dive into this one, which I was so very happy to pick up. It is called The Last Soul Among Wolves by Melissa Caruso. Now, it is the Echo Archives #2. The first one is The Last Hour Between Worlds, and I really liked the I don't know, it's just kind of Victorian era vibe of it with a little bit of that sci-fi fantasy feel. There is a little bit of what I guess I call period theming, which you can hear with like the way they speak and then of course the way their society kind of runs. But it's got a really good kind of fantasy sci-fi feel a little bit. There are kind of parallel worlds, echoes of our world, and the further away from the prime world, which would I guess be the one we're in, the the further into those portals you go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in, the more distorted those realms become, and the more dangerous they become. And so Kim or Kimbrel is one of the people who is able to walk these planes. She knows the dangers and she knows how to face them, and she is considered a hound. But let's dive into the summary first, and we will go from there. Oh, and I don't think reading this one will spoil too much of the first one, but of course this one does happen after the first one, so you're not going to know the journey they took to get there, but you're going to know what the journey's ending was if you haven't read the first one. So just putting that out there, that they are separate and they are complete in themselves. You don't have to read that one to read this one. You don't have to read this one to read that one. But if you're worried about spoiling the first one, maybe read that one first and then dive into this one. The Last Soul Among Wolves is the brilliant second installment. I was going to say installation. It's not the word that's there. Installment in Melissa Caruso's Echo Archive series, a whip-smart adventure fantasy featuring cursed relics, sapphic romance, and a magical murder mystery. All Kimbrel Thorne wants is to finish her maternity leave in peace, but when her best friend asks for help, she can't say no, even if it means a visit to a rundown mansion on an isolated island for a will reading. She arrives to find an unexpected reunion of her childhood friends, plus her once rival, now girlfriend Rika Nunsuch. They're there on a job. Took me a second to kind of untwist that sentence for myself. Then the will is read and everything goes sideways. 8 potential heirs, half of them Kim's oldest friends. 3 cursed relics. The rules: one by one the heirs will die. The prize for the lone survivor: a wish, and wishes are always bad business. To save their friends, Kim and Rika must race against the clock and descend into other realities once more. But the mansion is full of old secrets and new schemes, and soon the game becomes far more dangerous and more personal than they could have imagined. It is considered fantasy, adult, LGBT, lesbian, queer, fiction, science fiction, and more. It's approximately 384 pages in hardcover. I did have the ebook, not the audiobook, so not sure who would have read it. And I honestly think it probably would have been a really great audiobook. I want to say my first one. I want to say The Last Hour Between Worlds might have been audiobook. And I thought it was really well done. So I'm kind of having a flashback. It's probably somewhere here on my channel, but we're talking about this one right now. It is expected publication of August 19th, 2025, and it is the second book in a series. And it does seem as though there's probably going to be more, so I do like these little adventures that we go on with Kim and Rika. It's just really cute. And it's kind of funny as well that they kind of call Rika her enemy when she's really her girlfriend at this point, or her rival. So, in this particular world, there are different, I guess you could call them guilds. I think that would be the best way to kind of classify them. So, Kimbrel is a hound. So she's very good at like the investigating sort of aspect, and she's very good at the go-getter. Rika is a cat, so she's more sneaky. I think she would be the rogue of the group, if anything. Then we also meet members of, I think it's Butterfly, Wasp, and Raven. I'm trying to think if I'm missing one. I feel like I might be, but those are the ones that I remember right off the top of my head right now. And this one starts about 6 months after the first book. So the first book happens on what you could say midnight New Year's Eve, from one kind of, I think, almost 1 century into the next. And so there was a big kind of battle in that first book for who was going to get the name to name the century in order to, I guess, establish a bit of power over the years to come. And I'm not going to tell you all the specifics of it, but that book kind of encapsulates into that last hour between those worlds, between 1 century and the next, going into a new year. This one is about 6 months after Rika and Kimbrel have been dating for just a little while. Pretty much, it seems as though since they kind of wrapped up things at the New Year's Eve party. But I don't ever know if they were actually like enemies, or just kind of like, you know how cats and dogs kind of fight, but they can really be friends too. I don't think they're like enemies, but they can be on slightly opposite sides of the law at time. Rika's not afraid to maybe bend the law a little bit, and Kimbrel's not afraid to enforce it a little bit. So, it is kind of a locked room murder mystery, in the fact that Kim agrees to go to this island with some of her friends. I think it's Jacelle. I think she goes with Jacelle for this will reading, and a couple other people are there as well. And Kim kind of grew up with about 4 of them. And she finds out that, I think one day when she was becoming a hound, they had all gone to this island, kind of in what kids might do when there's, lore about a spooky house and, maybe a lady who might be a witch. So they went to this house, they found this book, they bled on it, and their name showed up in the book. Now, one person did it by accident. Well, then the other people did it out of solidarity. So now all their names are written in their own blood in the book. And so that's one of the reasons that their name is on the will, is apparently that created some sort of binding contract to them and this house and the relics that are left behind. So Kim she didn't do anything. She's not part of technically the 8 people who are potentially going to be the one who gets the wish. She is only here kind of as a support, because she was not present when they put their names in this book. So Rika was also hired by, I think, one of the Ravens. So Rika is also not in this book, and as a, I guess, potential to get this wish. And gosh, but anyway, there's quite a few people that are. And I think one of them is the girl's like niece or great niece. Anyway, she seems insufferable, and so does her husband. But things start to go sideways after the will is read, because what it says is that one person will pretty much come out on top and be the heir and inherit these relics, while the other 7 people will die. And Kimbrel is like, oh, wait, no, like half these people are my friends. I don't want that to happen. So now her and Rika have to go traversing these echo planes through various portals in order to try to figure out how they can break this curse, because that's technically what it is only one person is going to survive this curse and then be given a wish. But the thing is wishes rarely go the way you think they are. There's always those things. It's like, oh, well, I want to be rich, but something bad happens. You're rich, but then you maybe can't spend it or something. Like, there's always something, a caveat in most stories. In some stories, of course, there aren't really like those like specific niche caveats, but it does sound like a lot of the wish granters like to take advantage of loopholes. So I did like this second book a little bit more. I liked that we do have a little bit of this murder mystery, because in the, I guess at the beginning when they're all reading the will, they kind of like, I think Regius, something like that. He's like the husband of the grandniece or what have you. Anyway, he goes outside and he's killed by I think it's a deep wolf. It's from one of the levels of the Echo World. It comes out of this mirror, because one of the relics is a mirror. It's a mirror, a book, and a lantern. And the lantern seems to be attached to like almost the collar or something like that. At least that's how I was picturing it when it was described, kind of hanging from the chain of the deep wolf. So the wolf goes and gets him. He's outside, and then the other people, okay, and then there were 7. So you have a very much, and then there were none sort of scenario of trying to figure out how can we save her friends, break this curse without like losing too many people. I like the world building. I think that, again, this one was a little bit stronger in its storytelling for me. The first one was good, and I thought it set it up really well. I thought she found her stride a little bit better in this book, which sometimes happens when you're kind of working on a series. Like, sometimes you come out with a super strong debut, and I'm not saying this is a debut book for her, but maybe like the first in a series, and it's really, really strong. And then you have, what is it, sophomore slump, where the second book maybe just doesn't hit quite as well. I think the first book in this series was really good. Like, it was good, solid 4 stars. I think this one was probably like a 4.25 stars. I was engaged a little bit more, and kind of kept on my seat of wondering who's going to make it and who's not. Are we going to, how are we going to do this sort of thing? So I like this sort of mystery-esque. I mean, murder mystery is really one of my favorite genres to read anyway. So that aspect was more of a bonus than anything else for me. But again, we do have a little bit of, I guess, for me, thinking sci-fi, it's almost a steampunk-esque vibe that kind of, like, I guess I'm relating it to. And I know that's not, like, the best way to say it, but also these parallel echo planes feel a little bit more sci-fi, almost multiverse, rather than fantasy. Now, of course, you have quite a lot of fantasy in here as well, with the various creatures and people with various abilities and things of that nature. All of them really kind of feel benign, but then there's this guy who's like a guy, but he's a dragon, and he's kind of like the babysitter, which I love. I mean, he sounds adorable. I love him so much. I would let him watch my puppies anytime, because he seems like he wouldn't eat them. So that's just my thoughts. But I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say. The characters are, I'm not saying they weren't likable in the first book, but like Kimbrel came off just a little bit, I don't know, terse, not quite the like protagonist I was looking for. kind of liked Rika, but she almost was just a little too abrasive for me in the first one. But like, I mean, again, like an author finding her footing in a new world. And then in this book, they both felt I guess softer around the edges, so I liked them a little bit more. They were a little bit more comfortable with each other, but still kind of nervous because this is still a new relationship. We're within like 6 months of like perhaps dating, and yeah, so I did find them to be a bit more likable and less like in their own heads about like, the things. Now, of course, Kimbrel is still like, I think 6 months from just recently having a baby. So she's still got what I would call mommy brain going on in her head, where she's just kind of like, oh, is she crying? Is she wondering where I am? Is she looking for me? All this sort of stuff. She's kind of got some of those thoughts going on in her head. But she also feels like it's the right time to kind of get back to work, because what better time than trying to save some of her best childhood friends from maybe imminent death. So, there you go. I think that was a really great way to put it. So, if you did read the first one, I think you'll really like the second one. If you did not read the first one, then I hope you'll go out and try to give it a chance, because I think it's one that may have slipped under the radar for a lot of people. I'm glad I picked up both, and I hope we get to continue on these adventures. But until next time, I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. If you have not liked and subscribed already, I certainly hope you will. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. I will see you all on the next page. Have a great one. Bye.